Well, Union Federation SAFTU is reservedly welcoming the decision to close public schools.
The union is commending government for listening to the unions and parents.
But it accuses government of prioritising and enabling continued white privilege.
The Federation says the decision is evidence of the inequality in the country. For its part, the Human Rights Commission says the decision to close public schools is regrettable and unjustifiable. Let's discuss this now further with the Commission's Andre Gaum. Commissioner, good morning. Thank you very much for your time. Regrettable and unjustifiable, very clear how you feel as a Commission about the closure of public schools. Give us the main reasons why you feel like this as a Commission.
By 24 August, 10 million South African learners, depending on their grades, will have lost 50% of 100 or 100 of scheduled school days. Now, the Commission has pointed out very clearly why we believe that schools should remain open. We pointed to the learning losses, the increased inequalities, the regression also specifically among poor learners as far as reading and math skills are concerned. Matters such as the risk of increased child abuse, depression and anxiety, as well as the high risk of learners being left alone at home. Many parents have been out of work for quite some time, and as the economy is reopening, they are returning to their jobs. Now they have a choice between leaving their children at home or doing their daily work. So this constitutes a great problem as well.
Commissioner, are you not taking into consideration the health aspect, the safety of the learners and the teachers and the staff at schools that the President raised as one of the main reasons as we see a spike in COVID-19 infections in the country?
That is absolutely very important considerations, and we are also concerned about the health considerations as such. We believe that the focus should rather be on making sure that the schools are safe places and healthy places, that they are in line with the directions published in terms of health and safety, that the focus should be there. Yes, there is an increase in infections, but we don't know when exactly the peak will be. It seems that the peak has been passed now in the Western Cape. But what about the other provinces? What if the peak comes in September or November? Or what if there are additional peaks coming on later on? From that perspective, it becomes very problematic to close the schools now and close the schools for a full 4 weeks. We also note that the independent schools are not closing. And in terms of the existing directions, schools can apply to deviate in terms of the opening of schools, and many schools have done so. According to our own survey that we have done, electronic survey, 43% of schools indicated that they are going to apply to deviate from these. What happens to those schools now? If new directions are published, they also have to close as well. So all of this creates a massive wave of inequality in our country. What about those learners not having access to online education, those grades still at home, for example?
I mean, some of the reaction we've seen overnight since the President spoke does point to poorer children are going to be regressing significantly in terms of reading, for example, and learning with yet another closure of public schools.
Yes, absolutely. It is also quite a problem that this is a break, so it's basically a holiday. And a growing body of local and international research clearly shows the devastating effects if learners are not exposed to reading and writing for extensive periods of time. So from that perspective, it is indeed also a great problem. So the human rights, what we do welcome is that the President has announced that government will adhere to the North Gauteng High Court of Pretoria's decision that the National School Nutrition Program should be resumed for all 9 million learners who qualify for that. So going forward, what the Commission will do is it will refocus its monitoring on, one, the delivery of food to these learners, but also then we are insisting that learning materials should also be delivered at the same time to these learners who are most probably from poorer communities and who are most probably those who are not benefiting from online learning. So we will monitor not only the food delivery, but also that at the same time learning materials are made available to these learners to fight the growing inequality in the education system that is coming to the fore.
Have you communicated your demand that learning materials must also be delivered at the same time as the food that will be delivered to those learners now?
We have done that indeed. I've written to all the MECs as well as the National Basic Education Minister in this regard, inquiring from the MECs what their exact plans are in terms of delivering learning materials, texts in particular, for purposes of reading to all the schools, and I am awaiting their responses. Some of them have requested some extension as far as that is concerned. But certainly that will be where our focus is. There are many children who haven't been in school, who had any exposure to education for months, for half of the scheduled school days, as I pointed out, or 100 school days this year. That is completely unacceptable. We also note the Commission that that some of the unions are quite hesitant about this idea of the school year flowing over into the next academic year, and says that that hasn't really been discussed with them, which is another area of concern how that would work. We will hear from the Basic Education Minister when she announces the details.
Thank you very much, Andre Gaum from the Human Rights Commission.